Hi, welcome to the Stitch TV show. I'm Lynn.
And I'm Pam. We are excited that you are joining us today. It is the start of season 3, and The Stitch is an online quilt talk show, the perfect soundtrack for your sewing room. Join us for twice monthly talk shows, virtual stitch-ins, celebrity interviews, and podcasts. Learn more at thestitchtvshow.com. Our show today is brought to you by Ink and Arrow Fabrics, a division of QT Fabrics. There's a lot of cute fabrics here with us.
Oh, and the pixie dots. I'm all about polka dots.
Like, I know that QT stands for their old name, Quilting Treasures, but like cutie, also a thing.
I would say yes.
Totes cutie. Just saying. So this is the Pixie Dots line, which is kind of their basics in Ink and Arrow, which is delightful.
I love them. I love. Of course, I'm all about polka dots. So
I like that they look like tiny nervous squares, which is kind of my brand.
Tiny nervous squares.
Yeah, because they're all like just slightly different sizes.
Oh, they're cute.
They're totally cute. Like me.
They're a perfect
cute, nervous
blender.
Squares. Yeah.
They're a perfect blender.
Yeah,
I love them.
Funky.
So we're giving these away.
Not yet. Calm down,
At
everybody.
some point in the future that I probably wasn't supposed to mention.
Yeah, zip it.
Zip. And then we're arguing over these.
No, there's no argument.
Today we're going to be talking about what to do when you are not inspired in your sewing room and unconventional materials in your sewing room. We're joined by the football version of our sports ball quilt. Check out the digital pattern at shop.thestitchtvshow.com.
So, Lynn, what's up with all this stuff on the table?
Well, okay. So we were looking at the calendar. Yeah. And we both are big football fans. Well, I'm a big football fan.
That was a broad, sweeping statement.
She tolerates football. And we live in the South, and it's a big deal here. So at the beginning of the year, they pick teams to play in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. And they always pick an SEC team and a ACC team. And she graduated from Georgia Tech. And I'm a Tennessee fan.
Let's back it up for the American football muggles.
Okay.
Because football means soccer in like everywhere else in the world except the United States.
True, it does.
So what we call soccer, everyone else calls football.
It's American football. Right?
Even though
in college
they use their heads. Why isn't it called headball? I don't know. So college football. So my alma mater, Georgia Tech, is
playing my husband's
playing some
alma
little
mater.
Cute country school. Just saying. It's cute.
That was established before Georgia Tech was established, by the way.
Like,
so
the
anyway,
North Avenue Trade School's got some cred.
No, you guys have a lot of cred. Like smart people graduate from Georgia Tech.
SMRT, smart.
And other smart people, who go up into space graduate from UT. Just saying, they have a big space program.
Fred Astaire
graduated from Georgia Tech.
Went to Georgia Tech. I'm not sure if he graduated because I noticed I was in the alumni hall one time.
Fred Astaire and astronauts are not like.
Well, you got a broad range.
True.
Some people ride the M train, the management degree train. I'm not sure what his degree was, and maybe I'm totally making this up. But in the alumni hall, there was like this little plaque dedicated to Fred Astaire as like an illustrious alumni of Georgia Tech.
Because he showed up once at a fundraiser.
Maybe he's an honorary. I got to Google that.
Oh, he gave a speech.
Maybe
got an honorary doctorate.
Maybe
gave a speech.
So when I was in school there, I did take a lot of dancing classes. So I took like two-step. And swing, shag. And swing
maybe
dancing.
He sponsored the dance program.
Maybe he did.
There you go.
Yeah.
So anyway, but my husband and I are big football fans, and I grew up going to Tennessee football games. So we're excited because Tennessee's playing Georgia Tech. So we can't be friends that day, but we'll still talk.
No, we totally can because all I did was tell my husband, hey, you should watch this football game on the 4th so you can tell me what happens. I'll just make some notes for me, okay? So give me some highlights.
And I've got tickets, so we're going because it's in Atlanta and it's at the new stadium where the Falcons will play in the fall. So it's at the new.
Y'all have fun.
Stadium.
I'll be sewing.
So we're gonna get to see a football game at the new stadium, which I'm pretty excited about.
It's on Labor Day, right?
Yes.
Labor Day. It's a U.S. holiday in early September.
Exactly. And for those outside of the United States, they think cheering for college sports teams. I read this article where England think that it's weird that we would cheer for
is weird.
college football teams because they're all about professional teams and they don't understand the college fan base,
Yeah.
which is huge here. It's a big deal here. So anyway. All right. So that's our little what's up. We're getting, and this will come out before the game. So
We don't know how it ended.
we don't know.
Sure someone walloped someone else.
Yes. Somebody will play.
All right. To the task at hand.
Yes. Inspiration. Which I think it's funny that inspiration for you not being a real sports fan, like I'm a sports fan, I think legit on a lot of different sports. She's the one who came up with the sports ball quilt design, which I think's great, but you're not really a sports fan.
Well, so I had done chevron quilts before,
right,
and had been asked to write it up, and there's so many free tutorials out there for like the single zigzag, and I'm like, I'm gonna mix it up. Put a double zigzag in, and then you get 3 colors. I'm like, what usually has 3 colors?
Sports teams.
Sports. So there you go.
And this would be great for college dorms and high schools and stuff. Anyway. So what inspires you? Like when you need inspiration, where do you go to?
Usually it comes to me while I'm driving or I'm in the shower or
shower's good.
My
I agree with shower.
brain is not actively engaged in thinking about the problem.
True. That helps.
Yeah, because I was looking at a fabric line recently and thinking, all right, I want to make a quilt out of this. What the heck do I do? And I was struggling to mimic some of the shapes in the line and how could I turn those into blocks, and it wasn't really working for me. And then lo and behold, I get in the car.
Bam!
Serious 80s on 8 was on. Madonna's Getting to the Groove came on. Hot diggity. There you go.
Then you had an idea. I just made a list of things that I use to inspire me, right? So first of all is movies. So I have a huge collection of movies. So like Beauty and the Beast was one of the most recent movies I bought.
Stop flinging it around. You got to hold it still for the camera.
Oh, sorry. So Beauty and the Beast was one of the most recent movies I bought. And there's a lot of different versions of Beauty and the Beast.
Too much singing in this one, by the way.
I loved it.
Turn into my dad. So, why are they singing in this musical so much?
But the reason I brought that up is because that's another way to check out. Like sometimes when you're stuck with a problem, you need to check out of it and go do something completely different. So movies, books, TV shows, Outlander, another one of my favorites. TV shows, but also books. Like I read all the Outlander books. But so those are ways that I check out. Any kind of reference books are good for me. Like
the encyclopedia.
Actually,
the dictionary.
Yeah, sometimes. I was reading an article about, and I know you think it's crazy, but right, exactly. No, she never thinks I'm crazy. Absolutely not. The other thing that I think can give you inspiration is just your environment. Now, I don't go outside a lot.
She says this like I'm judging. Like I go outside even less than
None of us, we don't go outside.
You're actively going outside to see a sports ball game. Like
no, basketball's inside. Just saying. So is hockey.
No, but you have to leave the house for that. So
well, to get there. Anyway, but like wallpaper and ceiling tiles and floors all have different design elements that I think lend themselves to inspiration. And you'll see people take pictures of that online and of ceilings and all that kind of stuff. The other thing is coloring books. I like coloring books, and this takes you out. You can be inspired by different types of coloring books. These are Dover. Oh, and if you use Dover stuff, a lot of their things are royalty free, or that's not the right word.
Non-commercial.
Copyright free. Yeah. Copyright free. That's what I'm looking for. And that's one that I use. I think if you look at artwork and other mediums, that's not your, it's not quilting. Mm-hmm. Like go to the High or go to whatever art museum in your area and walk through there. You can get inspiration from that. Children's museums, I think, are inspiring. Museums themselves are inspiring. You can see stuff or learn stuff. I'm all about learning. Like, I never stopped learning. I never stopped, taking classes and all that kind of stuff. Now, do you have others? Because I have more.
So mine have traditionally focused on online sources because, as we just said, I don't like leaving the house.
She says that when I'm drinking. Okay, so go ahead.
It's a blessing and a curse. So mine are primarily online media. So not just the peer sourced media like Instagram, Flickr, various blogs, web pages, etc.
I agree.
There are even curated photography sites. So Getty Images, which does a lot of the images that are used by news services, like anytime there's a fashion show or they're the ones taking pictures from the runway. So even just going to Getty Images and searching for a keyword, you will see an amazing array of photos. And you can draw inspiration from them without paying the royalty fee. However, if you are looking to exactly duplicate that in a quilt, you do need permission. So
right.
Please be
cognizant
I've done
of that.
Copyright.
I have bought an image off of Getty Images to use in a quilt. And it was not cheap.
True.
They're expensive. The other thing that I did was easy sewing.
Yeah, I have in all caps. Just start sewing. Because a lot of what I sew, there's the complicated things that I have to think about and put together that maybe we're writing a pattern or I'm thinking about something for a show or it's a gift for someone. And then there's I just like to make quilts to donate through our guild to the local family and children's services. And a lot of those patterns are very simple. And I've always got squares cut and ready to go. And I will just start sewing. And then in the background have music, TV show, podcast, audiobook, whatever. And then that zoning out helps me think through other stuff because it's just 1/4 inch seam.
Right. Chain piecing kind of thing. I agree. I think just easy sewing. Sometimes I'll go back to an old project that I had put away or put down. And then because I don't have to think through it, again, it's one of those things. For me, I'm a very spiritual person. Prayer is one way that I find inspiration. And dreams, actually. Like, I have literally dreamed about quilt design and woke up the next morning and went, that's how I finished it. And knew that's how I finished it.
That's how I got the prologue for my NaNoWriMo novel. It was a dream. For my intergalactic crime-solving hairdresser. That's never going to see the light of day, by the way.
And do you doodle? Like, I just draw?
My doodles tend to just be cubes.
Really?
Yep.
Just keep drawing squares?
Yep.
That's your go-to doodle?
Yep. Cubes. 3-dimensional cubes. Getting a lot of confirmation.
I don't do that. Well, I can't. I mean, sometimes I'll draw, but
we know
like my go-to is trees. Like, I draw trees.
I used to do a lot more with like
very detailed
philodendron vines.
Very detailed leaves.
Little cutesy heart-shaped leaves was my bag in middle school. And,
then
I moved on to cubes, and it's like, well, that's good.
Then I'll do daisies or different flowers. But my go-to is usually a tree doodle. Like, and if it's a really boring meeting, I'll have the notes of the meeting and this huge tree that fills in the most of the page. It's pretty sad. It's like, those people were boring. But I'm listening. I'm listening while I'm drawing, usually. And my last tip for inspiration is just walk away. Like, put it away. If this is bugging you so much, just put it away. Do you ever do that? You did that with that one UFO.
Well, it wasn't put away so much because the one UFO, Dresden Garden, that I got the center glued down. And honestly, it's going to be a pain in the butt to stitch down all this applique in this center. And that's what held me up. And coupled with the fact that, like, I know how I wanted to quilt it. And I was afraid that I would jack it up. But it's been 3 years since I felt like I couldn't accomplish that quilting. Well, I just did that quilting on another quilt. I'm like, oh, I guess I could do it now. And that unblocked me. But in that time, it was literally hanging in my powder room. So the powder room's connected to the laundry room in my house. And so every time I went in there to go to the bathroom or do the laundry, I would see this UFO. So it wasn't exactly out of sight, out of mind. It was like, ugh.
Sometimes I just put stuff away because I'm like, this now pains me, and I'm not getting anything done, and it's blocking me from doing other stuff, so put it away. Maybe it doesn't need to be a thing yet.
I tend to brute force things more.
Just get it done.
I'm less likely to walk
Get her
away
done.
from it. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well,
no. I get to a point. Well, I get to a point where I'm like, I'm frustrated with it. It's not going where I want it to go. I'm not happy with it. I put it away. Or throw it away.
I've only done that twice.
And I'm done. So sometimes, yeah, throw it away. So, any others? We just got an announcement that the UT offices for Mike and Lynn's football tickets are ready.
Hooray.
Yay.
That was excellent timing.
Very good timing.
I'm just going to scoot that. Bam, bam, bam. You know what? How frequently are you drawing inspiration for a quilt from things outside the textile world?
Pretty common.
Like half and half?
No, I would say more 70% to 80%.
From outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. For me, yeah. Yeah, very common. Like, for example, I watched this series on Netflix. I don't think we've released which one it was. And so I got fascinated by the series and I started looking up images. It was a series that kind of played homage to a show from the 70s. So I started looking up things from that show in the 70s.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about Riverdale and the Archie comics.
We can talk about
Riverdale. Anyway, well, I didn't know.
And why we're a couple of middle-aged ladies watching a teenage.
It was great. It was a great show. So I watched Riverdale. So I got fascinated by the whole show, and it was inspired by Archie. So I started looking up images on the internet from the Archie comics.
And it's from before the 70s, though.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I guess I was watching it in the 70s, the Archie comics, and reading the Archie comics.
I would just see it in the grocery store checkout line, like, comic books, nerds. Just kidding.
So, it was one of the few comic books I liked as a kid.
I had Buck Rogers comic books and Smurf comic books. So
no, I had Archie.
There you go.
So, I got fascinated, and then that inspired a quilt, that pattern I just wrote. So, I think, yeah, I definitely look at those things outside of the quilting world. Now, I'm inspired by stuff in the quilting world. Like, we've talked about this before. I like having a challenge. So if you give me a limited set or of fabrics or, a certain palette color or whatever, and you say, make something out of this, that inspires me. And I think it puts me in a box that I try to live in. And that's the challenge of how do you stay in that box? I don't know. I like that. I like the whole challenge thing. As much as I say I don't, I like it. So, do you get inspiration? What's your percentage?
Okay, so here's what I'm currently facing.
Okay.
I would say my percentage is probably the same, maybe slightly more towards 50-50.
Really?
Only because I do get a lot of inspiration from movies, music, TV shows.
Right.
So I signed up for our guild challenge.
I did not.
So,
although I think I would like it, I didn't.
That's why I was asking you about that ruler.
Oh, we'll have to look.
We'll look later. So the challenge is you have to make a one-patch quilt using only 3 specific colors that you don't see at the time that you sign up for it. So you kind of pick this envelope, and it's got 3 crayons in it, and you're allowed to use any range of saturation of those 3 colors. So mine is like kind of a dark orange.
Yay! What a great color.
Silver, it's the metallic silver crayon. So I'm like,
ooh,
well, that's going to be gray. And then green.
Oh, that's
which is very Irish flag, by the way.
Yeah, it is Irish flag.
So I kind of have an idea. But so here my inspiration has to be not only these 3 crayons and the fact that I can only use one shape, and whether that's rectangles or hexagons or triangles, or so a one patch, and make a quilt. I'm like, oh gosh. Like, so immediately I'm thinking Ireland. because that's
Do
the
you have
colors.
Irish in your background?
No.
No.
I am like, gosh, 95% Anglo waspy goodness, straight out of
England?
southeastern England.
Wow. There you go.
Good times. Like there's a, I don't know if it's a county. I'm not sure what the right geographic descriptor is, but there is a legit house with my maiden name attached to it.
Oh, wow. There you
Which
go.
is not at all a common maiden name, and I'm not going to throw it out. But anyway, so yeah, we've got roots traced back to there, and I've got like a smidge of Scotch and a smidge of
Wales?
Salzburg, Vienna, I
Oh,
think.
wow.
But that's it.
That's it.
That's on my dad's mother's side. Or no, that's my dad's side because it's my maiden name. And then the other side is like people that came over in the Mayflower. And then
pretty
on my
English.
mom's side, it's in theory we can trace it back to Sir Thomas A. Becket.
Wow.
Yeah, so like I am straight up
You're legit American.
English, which is why when I've been in London and people have come up to me and like, I guess I just look like I fit in there because I'm slightly unhappy and kind of ruddy. I don't know. No offense, England. I love you guys.
We just lost
Can't wait to
all
go
of
back.
our English fans.
I love it. But I was so like, why do you think that I am English? And they hear me talk, they're like, oh, sorry.
You're American.
Yeah. And I can't even do a good English accent. It's not good. I'm not even going to try. So I'm not good at dialects or accents or any of that stuff. Although I can pick up languages, particularly Romance languages, easily. But yeah, my accents are horrible. So
Oh, I can't.
anyway, so no Irish roots.
No Irish roots, but you're going to do an Irish
It's going to be like,
quilt.
don't kiss me. I'm not Irish. Also, I don't like unsolicited contact. I don't know if I can fit that all in one quilt, though.
Probably
in a one
not.
block. Yeah.
Don't kiss me, I'm not Irish. That would be a funny quilt, though.
Yeah.
But it's
I can make it
it's
as
only
big as
like 24 by 24, right?
that's the smallest it could be for this
okay.
challenge. So yeah, that's the inspiration that I'm looking at.
So
These 3 crayons that I've like tucked back in the envelope and shoved in the drawer because I'm kind of mad. Fudge.
I like the colors. I think those will be good.
I mean, you would. It's gonna
I know. Yay.
be
Anyway, anything else that inspires you?
I think that we are good on this topic.
All right.
So we're going to take a little break, give you guys a closer look at the quilt hanging behind us. You can actually see the American football on it and not just be like, well, what's up with that? And we'll be right back.
Okay, we're back, and we're going to talk about unconventional materials in the sewing room.
Not in the Project Runway sense. We're using them to make things. Like, I have made a dress out of corn husks, which was a beautiful dress from one of the early seasons in Project Runway, but not that. I'm going to leave that to the semi-professionals.
When we first brought this up, though, I thought you were talking about making quilts out of unconventional objects. And there was a great display at an AQS show.
Oh, yeah.
That where we saw quilts made out of smashed, like aluminum cans. And they were all beer cans. I've seen them out of candy wrappers.
Mm-hmm.
Seen them out of film. Like the 8mm old film. They did a log cabin out of it. It was incredible looking. I've seen them out of, what other things? Leather.
Well, there's, a woman that does great work with quilted leather now.
Yeah, it's incredible. But a lot of different unconventional quilts, and it was a unique exhibit. But that's not what you're
Not that,
talking
no.
about. No.
This
So we're not
is-
going to talk about what we just talked about. We're going to talk about this.
Right. Weird and wacky tools
Okay.
that you find handy in your sewing room.
And you know how I did this is I literally just stood in my sewing room and went, oh, I use this, and it's not a normal sewing thing. And oh, I use this, and so that's
Okay.
what I brought. So
You do one, then I'll do one.
Okay, so the very first thing is painter's tape.
What do you use that for?
Everything, absolutely. When I'm taping down stuff for, like tracing, when I need to tape a line on my sewing machine to be a quarter of an inch away, or I'll tape if I'm sewing something that has 3/8 of an inch or something, I can move the tape. So I tape that. I will tape things on my design wall sometimes to draw on or whatever, to trace things.
That's what I use when I'm laying down backgrounds because I pin based on the floor.
Right.
And that's what I use to lay the backing down and secure it.
In fact, I have a roll of this that I put in my, I have a tote when I go and sew other places that I just kind of keep packed with certain things, and this is in it. That's how often I use painter's tape.
Okay.
So one of my very favorite unconventional tools. What's yours?
Phone books.
I've never used a phone book in my sewing room.
Phone books, which, are harder to come by now.
I started to say, I don't even know I've gotten one in the last 10 years.
God bless the county we live in. They are still aggressively shilling those things. And like, we sent you a phone book. Did you get it? Like, yes, stop cluttering up the driveway with your dang phone books. Jeez. So, although I think they've laid off and we haven't gotten one in a year.
Seen one lately.
But the paper that they use in phone books is very thin.
It is.
And it is good if you are doing foundation piecing with just strings, because lots of times.
Oh, good point.
So I am not a fan of doing a lot with strings, but when I do it, it's like I'm get them all done at one time. Because how I trim up my scraps, I trim them all to. If it's not a full width of fabric, 2.5 inch, equivalent to a jelly roll strip, I cut it down to 2 1/8, which is my preferred binding width. And then I just shove those in, my little color divided organizer. And lots of times I just use scrappy binding for donation quilts that I do. But I'm getting to the point where that thing is full and I got to start doing something with these. So I will take phone. I have to borrow like phone books from my mother-in-law, who still keeps them all. Not judging. She's over 80. It's like, do you have one that you can let go now? And she does. And then I will get those pages and just use that as a foundation to keep everything from shifting. Because sometimes my little binding strips are cut on the bias and they're more likely to stretch and be weird. But if you sew them to this foundation that's very stable, this paper foundation, that goes a lot better. So
phone books,
phone book paper.
There you go.
Because the alternative is copy paper, but I'm going to actually use that for something else, and it's too thick.
And it's too thick. Yeah, I mean, you can use copy paper, and I have, but compared to phone book paper, it's definitely thicker. So my next one, ready? School glue. Mm-hmm. Love it. I use it for applique. I use it to hold stuff down. Like if I'm couching something, I may put a little glue to hold it in a certain place, and I'll use this. Use it for when I do rope vases. I do these rope vases. I use the stick glue. It's just handy. I definitely use it more things that I'm probably even listing. But applique is the biggest one.
Yeah, I use it for applique as well. And you can also heat set that, but be careful you don't get schmutz on your iron.
And if you pick out the purple kind, the stick purple kind, it's washable. Mm-hmm. So that's the kind you want. And they're cheap, especially this time of year.
Yes. It's back to school time.
It's back to school time, so you can pick those up really inexpensively.
Yes.
And I just picked up a case, and I think that's lasted me a few years, actually.
Well, it will go bad.
Not if the case is still good. Because I've never opened them. If you've opened them, I think, you're right.
They'll dry out and not be as good.
But the case is still good. All right, your next one.
Speaking of school supplies, pipe cleaners.
Pipe cleaners. What do you use pipe cleaners for?
Entertaining my cats accidentally.
That's fun.
Because I keep them in one of the drawers, and every once in a while, one kind of pokes out the back, and one of my cats gets very excited and pulls it out and starts frolicking with it. Not the original intended purpose. It is very handy for getting down inside the bobbin area when I need to clean lint out, because it's malleable. It'll get down in there. It'll attract lint and kind of pull it out.
Oh, I need to get a pipe cleaner.
Yeah, you do.
There you go. That's a good idea. Very cool.
Pipe cleaners.
Pipe cleaners. All right. You're going to be surprised at this one.
I'm not.
Probably not.
I just saw it.
Liquid starch. Liquid starch.
My look of shock.
I know. Liquid starch. Which some people use this for ironing, but these are the two things I'm not using it for ironing. I use this when you do turned applique. It could be either needle turn applique or machine applique. You can use liquid starch to spray it in the cap and then paint it on the edge of the fabric that you want to turn down, and it will hold that edge really well for you.
You press it after you do that.
You press it after you do it, which dries it, and it holds that edge for you, and it's easier to do needle turn or machine. So that's one. But the other reason I use it is when I'm long arming, and I long arm my own stuff, so I'm not talking about other people's quilts. I jack mine up too. But if you've got an area that's kind of wavy or not as flat as you would like it to be.
Like you've made a Lone Star and you got an A cup in the middle.
Yes, there you go. This, if you wet it down with starch and let it dry, for some reason it kind of shrinks that up and it helps that waviness go away, and then you can quilt it easier. And you won't have all of those,
very friendly borders.
Yeah, the friendly borders. So liquid starch is definitely one of my friends with the long arm.
2 number 2 pencils.
Oh.
And some of the painter's tape. Do you know what you use that for?
Number 2 pencils and a painter's tape.
2 of them, not just 1, 2.
2 number 2 pencils.
So the width of traditional old school pencils that you have to sharpen that look like the hexagon.
Yeah.
Or a 1/4 inch wide.
Yes, they are.
So when you tape 2 together,
the
points are a 1/4 inch apart. And you can use that to trace an applique shape or anything you need to add a seam allowance to.
That's a great tip.
Lots of times templates come and they say seam allowance not included, which to me is ridiculous. Like paper templates. So one of the Block of the Month programs that I do, they're like, oh, you need to add the seam allowance. So you could just take those 2 pencils, tape together, and trace the outside.
And give the seam allowance.
And that will give you the seam allowance to cover.
That's a great tip. I'm going to use that in one of my classes that I teach. My next one is tweezers, which I don't see over here. Tweezers. I use tweezers for pulling out threads that may get caught in the
Mine are longer and pointier.
So yes,
because I also use them to pull out globs of lint.
Globs of lint, yeah. Tweezers are definitely something to help pull out some of the stuff that you can get in your sewing machine. So I use tweezers a lot, but I think the longer, pointier ones are good too.
Yes.
These are just ones I found in my sewing room.
Cool. Suction cup organizers, like you would affix to kitchen sinks or any other, like your bathtub. So my sewing machine is positioned right in front of a window. As you can imagine, it's difficult to hang things from a legit window.
Right.
So I have one of the, it's about yay big, and it's got 2 big suction cups on it. Mm-hmm. And I have it stuck to the window, like kind of high enough that it's not blocking the view of the cat that wants to get in my way and look out the window. And in that, it's kind of got 1 big section and 2 smaller ones. And in the big section is where I keep the case for my clover clips, the little clippy things.
Oh, right.
Instead of
for
pins.
Binding?
No, I don't use those for binding. I use them when I'm holding curved pieces together.
Oh, really?
And the smaller ones hold like disappearing marking pen, pencil,
right.
my wooden seam presser, the point turner, like all the little accoutrements. So, and that's within arm's reach and up out of my way, so I'm not going to knock it over.
Okay. Bamboo skewer.
That is to torture your enemies.
You stick them under the fingernail.
Yes.
Bamboo skewer is what I use as a stiletto to guide the fabric under the machine where I want it to sew and hold it where I don't want to stick my finger. And the reason I like a bamboo skewer instead of a metal stiletto is because if the needle hits this, it may not break. If the needle hits the metal stiletto, it's going to break.
Yeah.
Or bend.
Kabloom.
Yeah. But this is easy enough that, it's, and it's a fiber product.
If it breaks it, you're not going to cry.
Right. Because I can buy a whole pack at the dollar store for $1.
Price check.
Price check. It's $1. So there you go.
Okay. Hairspray.
Hairspray?
Hairspray.
I barely use that anyway.
Girl. Welcome to the South.
I don't use hairspray. And we all know I don't use hairspray.
The higher the hair, the closer to God. But that's not what I use it for. So, when I am using specialty thread, particularly metallics.
Oh, yes. This is a good tip.
You just give a little on the edge, and then you can kind of get all your little threads pointed in the same direction. It makes it much easier to thread your needle.
That's a good idea.
Now, the trick is, like, where do you actually spray that?
Not
so you're
on
not
your machine.
Getting, like, hairspray junk everywhere. So, like, set up a little, like, inside a box, basically. Get an old shoe box or something.
Yeah.
So
I have a spray box that I spray glue-based stuff. And I heard a horror story that someone was using that glue spray, not hairspray, the really, what is it, 505?
Yeah, the temporary adhesive.
The temporary adhesive. And they were doing it right on their sewing machine base. So they had literally sprayed their entire base of their sewing machine with this temporary glue stuff. And they said to clean it up was a night. I mean, then they took it to the machine repair place and go, I don't know, understand why it's not working. Really?
It's sticky.
It's sticky. Anyway, the other two things that you have to go to your kitchen to like get stuff is parchment paper. I use all the time because I do a lot of applique. So parchment paper is what I put on the ironing board so that if I am using fusible web and it's outside the area that I'm ironing, it protects the ironing board. You can always put it on top of and it'll protect the iron. Mm-hmm. So you almost make an envelope of parchment paper, but I use parchment paper a lot. And the other one, and this is just another paper, is freezer paper, and this is an applique technique. Which, by the way, they were going to discontinue freezer paper a few years ago. And the riots happened, the quilt riots happened. And if you haven't heard about the quilt riots, it was a big deal. And they chose not to because it is the go-to paper for applique.
Yeah.
So, and needle turn applique specifically.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Rubber jar opener.
I don't use a rubber jar.
One of those little floppy
things.
I know what I got one from my real estate agent.
Yeah, I think I did too. Did they they must have mailed them out all over the county.
No, I got mine like when we bought the house. Like, hey, here's your giant mortgage and a rubber jar opener. Thanks for that.
There you go.
This is handy to avoid foot pedal creep.
Foot pedal creep.
Yeah. So I sew. My sewing room has hardwood floors, and if you have tile floor, anything that's a slick floor, your pedal can tend to just kind of slide around and get everywhere. But you have these random leftover rubber jar opener thingies. You put that on the floor where your pedal goes, and that helps stop it from creeping around.
That's good. That's a good tip. Because then you're not chasing it with your foot. It's awful. My last one is comic book backer boards. And I know we've talked about this before in the organization thing, but so I go to the I really send my husband to the comic book store because he likes comic books.
Nerd.
And
takes one to know one.
I have him buy the comic book backer boards, and I like the 7.5 or 7x8 size. And I wrap all my yardage around this. And this is acid-free archive quality.
Yes.
So it doesn't damage your fabric, which is good. And then I'll get the 8.5 by 11, and I'll then take it to Kinko's or the UPS store, someone who has one of those big cutters.
Yeah, even like office supply stores.
Yeah, like Office Max or one of those places will do it. And I have them cut the 8.5 by 11 paper into 4 quarters, and then I wrap all my fat quarters on these, and again it's archival safe quality, and these are like a box of 100 is like $20, whereas sometimes some of the things that you store your fabric on is super expensive, and this is cheap. And honestly, these are great for making postcards when I do making fabric postcards. I use the quarter size to do those. So I use these a lot. Make templates for the comic book backer boards is also what I make templates for the long arm. If I want to trace a snowflake or a butterfly or something, I will do it out of this. And then when I cut that out, I have that template that I can move around and trace on my long arm and give me those designs on my long arm.
So what are you cutting that out with? An X-Acto knife?
No, I just use paper scissors. They're not that, it's like cardstock, so it's not like super thick.
Okay.
Yeah, I just use paper scissors. You could use, if it was really intricate, you could use an X-Acto knife, but scissors work great.
Awesome.
So,
what unconventional tools do you use in your sewing room? Let us know. Leave a comment on our blog or on the YouTube episode. And that's all we have for this episode. Today's show is made possible by Ink and Arrow Fabrics, because fabric should be fun. You can learn more about them and their fun fabrics at inkandarrowfabrics.com.
And we'd like to thank 77 Peaches, Big Thing Productions, for helping us produce The Stitch. If you've enjoyed the show, please like us and share and subscribe.
The next virtual Stitch-In is Friday, September 8th at 7 p.m. U.S. Eastern, broadcast live on our YouTube channel. My podcast, Hip to Be a Square, is out Fridays on iTunes or Google Play.
And all those details and more can be found on our website, thestitchtvshow.com. Tune in next time for more quilting chat with friends.